upgrade.
Yeah.
Y'all like it's not.
Beyonce, shout out to Beyonce because she about to be on trial too.
Okay, well, this is not about Beyonce tonight. This is about you, Green Eyes. So, with that said, welcome to Culture Club Conversation. This is your girl, the one and only Marilyn Monroe. And I'm here with a familiar face, and then, of course, another face in which she has a podcast too, but we'll get to that later. So, tonight we're going to talk about, and I guess I'm trying to be all peppy because this is a serious conversation, and it is 20 years later. 20 years later of the Baltimore Sun newspaper ad of saying two girls died in collision, their mother and brother injured. That was 20 years ago today. And that mother is our very own Greeneyez, Nette. 20 years ago, I guess this is very emotional. So 20.
Ready? Hold up, hold
Yeah,
up,
it is. It
hold
is.
up, hold up.
Yeah.
Fold it again. Fold it again.
I had a time. I had a time today because I was just like,
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
was kind of
First
getting
of all,
nauseous.
before you start and before the emotions come, let me say I really appreciate Della for coming on because she's like a sister friend to me. She's been with me since high school, well, middle school. Let me stop lying. Let me go back to the Magazine middle days. And for you a sister cousin. So I know this is really hard and emotional for you
Yeah.
too, but I thought it was perfect because I was hounded by the news people for 2 weeks during the accident and the trial to
Yeah.
ask me questions, but I didn't feel like I wanted to talk to anybody because a lot of people assume their own assumptions about the whole situation. So you two know me, so I just be like, F it. That's how you feel it happened. That's how it happened. I just don't feel like I need to explain it. But
So
20
let's
years
get into
later,
that.
I feel like I can.
Let's get into it. Let's just dive right into it because it is very emotional. So let's get into it. Let's talk about that day. Let's talk about before even getting in the car.
Okay.
The events that
So
took place.
that day, I lived in West Baltimore, Delaney Street. Shout out to Delaney Street in Baltimore. And I was sitting on the porch, and Robin, Adela, my bad. I gotta get used to saying y'all names on the thing. Della, she knows I was dating somebody at the time. His name was Bam. Shout out to Bam. He had some friends that wasn't really like me. You know, I'm a county girl, so I was kind of fresh city, so they was a little rough to my liking. But that's just how they kind of showed you love or whatever. Well, long story short, I was on the phone with Mike. Shout out to Mike, who is my ex-husband, who was involved in the car accident as well. But he overheard the guy saying something to me that he felt was disrespectful. So Mike, was at a cookout, his mom's house. Della knows she throw parties all the time. You might drink a couple beers or something, but he never expected to hear another person talk to me in his sense disrespectfully. And he knew where I was, so he just came up. You know, it was kind of like you watch a movie and you be on the phone talking to somebody, but then you look and they pull right up in front of the house and you like, what? Like he really didn't say he was making a move. I knew he was at a cookout having fun and chilling, so I really didn't expect him to come there. But did I expect him to be protective over me? Yeah, I did because that's what he always did. So he came up there, and his thing was now he's upset because this guy talked to me like that. He's going around looking for the dude. They get into a verbal altercation, and I just decide to let me pack my kids up and go with him. So we're gonna go back to his house because I don't want to be here. He just caused an altercation with these people in the neighborhood. But although I had a boyfriend at the time, mind you, in the neighborhood, so I knew I would have been safe, but I wanted to get him out of harm's way and I wanted to make sure he was good. So that's how we ended up in the car.
Okay. So you ended up in the car. Like, do you recall like the time of day that this happened?
It was somebody down. It was right
Mm,
when the sun was going down behind
yeah,
the
it
buildings.
was.
No, it was about right before it got dark.
It was like 8, 7ish or 8ish, I believe
Yeah.
so.
Because it was like about to get dark, but it was May. So you see how it is when it's
Yeah,
outside, when it's about to be dark. So it was probably crazy thing, probably around this time frame.
yeah. It probably was around 8, 8. I would say around 8, 8:30.
So probably
So
it's 20 years ago around the same time.
Right, and that's crazy because I didn't even think about it like that when we made the time for this.
Okay. So continue.
So we got into the car. Now I'm upset with him for coming up there acting like that. Cause like I said, I live here. Like you can't come up here acting like that. I understand you being protective, but sometimes you gotta talk to somebody and ask them, like, what did he say? Did that offend you? Cause not to say he talks to me like that, but that's just when you understand somebody else's lingo, somebody else doesn't have to understand the lingo. You know what it means. So we got into it, and this is when, you know, I hated that we were arguing in the car on the way to his mom's house, but we were coming down B&A Boulevard. And when you come down B&A Boulevard, for anybody that knows that area in Glen Burnie and Anne Arundel County, on the side where the person who hit us was coming from, there's a dip. So when a car goes in the dip, it doesn't like stay in the dip for a long time. It kind of comes right back up. But in the reinvestigation of the accident, they make it seem like the car was in the dip. So the car was probably in a blind spot, is what they're saying. So when it went down in the dip, he made a turn onto the highway, and then when he went to make the turn, that's when we collided. So the car hit us in the driver door and the passenger door and sent both of those doors to almost touch the middle of the car. And I was in the passenger seat, and my two daughters were behind me. And my son, he was secured, but he actually unbuckled himself on the ride and flew out the window and only broke his leg. So he kind of like, upon the collision, ejected out the back window. So that's what saved his life by being out of the car. We were restrained, so we couldn't. We were in the car.
As for the girls.
The girls, Tiara, she was 5 years old. She would have been my second oldest right now. So she would be like, what, 25? Good gracious. And then Sanaya, she was 15 months at the time of the accident, and she would be about 20. About to be 21, another drinker.
I hope not.
No, she would have took
So,
after her auntie. She would have took after
Yeah,
her
they
auntie.
take after their aunt.
Yeah, she would have took after her auntie.
my God. Okay, so and so the girls, as far as they're being buckled in or not, because per the newspaper, that was one of the factors they mentioned of their head trauma.
Yeah, so correct. Sanaya was in a car seat, but it wasn't like, when the car seats we had don't look like the ones now. So it was kind of like the little cradle looking
Yeah.
car seat. So it
Yeah.
kind of would do a rock. So she didn't have the base. So she didn't have the base. So it wasn't properly secured. And Tiara, no, she did not have a booster seat. She was in a seatbelt because previously, you understand, I said there was an altercation. So my objective was like, let's just get down the road and we're not far. You know what I'm saying? So me thinking quickly and just reacting. So Deontay was secure in a seat, but it wasn't a car seat. It was a booster seat. So at that time, I didn't have Tiara in one because she was 5. So in my eyes, she was good enough to ride down the road.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay. You really summed that quick. Like I was thinking
well,
stretched out. The
no, I
details.
do because it's like,
Which good.
yeah, it's something that plays in my mind all the time for 20 years.
My God. So let's talk Della. Della, when did you get the call?
Whew. Shortly after the accident. I don't even remember who called me, to be honest with you. I just remember getting a phone call right when I was ready to go to bed because I had talked to her previously, right when the altercation had kind of like took place. So I knew that Mike was like on his way to go get her. So I just figured she was, straight for the night. And I think I was like about to go to sleep. I don't even know who called me. I just remember getting a phone call and they were like, her and the kids were in an accident. And I was like, okay, where are they? And the person was like, the girls did it. And I didn't even let them complete the sentence. And I just said, hold up, where are they? And they said shock trauma. So I remember grabbing keys, being all fumbled all over the place. And my mom woke up and asked me what happened. I was like, I don't know. I just know Lynette and the kids were in an accident and I got to go to shock trauma. She was like, well, you can't drive like that, because I was just all over the place. And I remember going up 97 and just so happened to look over and seeing nothing but red lights and cars everywhere. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to look over there, because that's just a horrible coincidence. That's not them. Because the way that scene looked, I was just like, nope, that's just not them. And I kept driving. And again, somebody else called me to ask me, did I hear about the accident, as I'm on 97? And I was like, where was the accident at? And the person said, somewhere in Glen Burnie or 97. And that just clicked to me that that was them.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately I just pulled over on the side of the road, because I had to get myself together, because I started shaking. So me and my mom switched spots so she could drive, because my mom, she don't drive in Baltimore. So for her to
At
switch
all.
over and drive, I was like all over 97. And I just remember getting to the hospital, and I remember bogarting my way through everybody. And I remember them telling me the girls didn't make it. So then, of course, I'm like, where's D? Where's Deontay? And there's like, he's in surgery. And I just immediately remember flipping, like, they told me she was in a coma. And I just remember flipping, like, I got to be with Deontay. I got to be with Deontay. But
And
then,
he was in John Hopkins, so you had to go
yeah.
to another hospital.
So it was just, at that moment when I realized he was in a different hospital than she was, I realized I had to put on my big girl drawers.
Mm-hmm.
And I can honestly say I thought about this. It's been 20 years today that I've been drinking Red Bull. Because this is when I started drinking Red Bull. Because I was like, I can't go to sleep. I remember going back and forth from one hospital to another. I remember going to try to see him, but because it was so late and his surgery took so long, I couldn't see him. So I went back to shock trauma to basically sit there with her. But then, of course, she was in and out of surgery. And I just remember hella people coming to the hospital, and me having to just step up and be like, you know what, everybody get the fuck out. Because the situation, y'all not doing anything but stressing me out right now. And I don't remember leaving that hospital except to go home and take a shower and come back.
So what was the surgeries like for you, Greeneyez? Like what was the surgeries you were going through?
Ooh, I broke 9 ribs and both of my lungs collapsed, and I had internal bleeding that wouldn't stop. So at one point they had closed me up, but
Oh,
then they thought it was best to keep me open. So in order to keep me open, they had to put me in a medically induced coma so
yeah.
that until the swelling went down, because mentally and physically no one's body can take the pain that I was in for real. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to be stable and be able to handle the pain that I was in. Like, of course, mentally, I don't know that because I literally was in a
Right.
medically induced coma. So I don't know anything. Like, I don't remember anything. I know they say people can hear you when you talk to them when they're in a medically induced coma. I don't know. That could be true at the time, but I will tell you for being in one, you don't remember. Well, I don't remember anything.
Yeah, I know, like, her first surgery that night, where she was in there forever. And I had to get my mother back to Annapolis. So I was like, I'm going to go back to Annapolis, get in the shower, come back to the hospital. And just as quick as I got back to Annapolis, they called me and was like, they had to rush her back in for another surgery. So I don't even
Mm.
think I took a shower. I think I dropped my mom off and came right back to Baltimore.
Yeah, and that probably was when they, they thought they did everything and they closed me
Yeah.
up, and then I started bleeding again.
Okay. So speculations and people have said, and could be true, could be not. But tonight is let us know. This drinking was a factor into this accident. So how true is that?
So drinking obviously was a factor because, like I said, he was at a cookout at his mom's house. I can't say that he was drunk because I'm a better judge of character than that. So if I felt like he was sloppy drunk, I could have drove the car.
Right.
I could have gotten the driver's seat. I felt like he was more angry. So people don't understand anger can also control your mental. So you could be angry when you see people arguing in the car and they be doing all of that and the car be jerking and stuff. That could cause an accident. But not
Am
to say he
I
wasn't driving like that either, but his mental state, he probably shouldn't have been driving, but because we were conversating the whole ride, I thought everything was okay.
okay? So
And then Deontay's surgery, to touch bases real quick, he broke his what was that? His
It was
growth something, his growth
in like his
plate.
femur or something
It's
in
like
his
right,
hip.
yeah, right by his knee. So
Yeah.
basically he missed it by a hair where he would have had a shorter leg than the other one. But because they did such a great job, shout out to John Hopkins. He does. We tease him because he got a limp, but it's like you really can't notice it because he has turned that into some whole swag daddy
And he
walk.
and he and
Like
he still owe me for carrying him around that body has.
I'm
yeah.
a solo because he's
So
23 now, guys. So he's doing
so
well. He has his own baby.
let's go back into the car. So we we're gonna jump around because I want to kind of be able to ask these questions to provide people with these answers or
Yes,
concerns or the nosy ones because we do that too. We provide all the
everybody
answers
likes
every
drama.
day.
Yes.
Yes, we do. So with that said, we're gonna go back in the car on that same night. As you and Mike was having a conversation, it was heated, or whatever it was. Tell me what was your last memory before everything just went black? What do you recall?
So the crazy thing is, I can't really recall what I recall. I just know that we argued because I don't even remember making that left turn. Like I drive past that often, so I don't even remember us making that left. The only thing I remember is how serious the verbal altercation was in his brain. His brother and his girlfriend also drove up there in a separate car. So that's really why I really felt like let me go back with them to de-escalate this. And they were in front of us. So I do remember following behind them and I remember that, but I don't remember us being at that light to make that left turn. So that's the last thing I remember. Just
Hmm.
talking to him and going back and forth about like, let's just go. It's not that serious. I gotta live up here. That type of argument.
So, since you don't remember when it went out, how was it when you woke up from your induced coma?
Um, I remember before that, the last thing I remember in the car was I guess I must have passed out on my own from like being hit like that and your ribs breaking instantly and your lungs collapsing. I must have passed out. So I remember being slapped in the face by Mike to wake me up. That's and looking at him and seeing a glossy face, and that's the last thing I remember. So he slapped me in the face to wake me up because I must have passed out. I looked and seen his face look like sweat, but now that I know it was blood because the windshield cut his face. So I didn't know that. I thought it was sweat, and then I don't remember anything else. So when I woke up out of the medically induced coma, it had already been my birthday. So the accident happened on the 16th. I remember waking up and the craziest thing is, and y'all gonna think this is so crazy, and Dalla probably remembers, I complained about my hair
Because I was
because
doing it.
because at first they had I guess a nurse that didn't really know what she was doing, and because it was my birthday that came around while I was in the
Yes.
hospital, she put some ribbon bow thing in my
Oh my
hair,
God, that pissed me off so
and
bad.
they put a sign above me that
With
said
the
"Happy
wrong spelling.
Birthday" with the wrong spelling. So when I woke up, that stuff was still there, but I woke up. Did they wake me up when they had all of y'all come back to wake me up? Did they wake me up the day of the funeral, or was it a
Day
couple of
before.
days?
It was like a day before the funeral. It was the day before the funeral. It was actually at night. It was the night before the funeral because I remember when your mom called me, she said, "We're going to tell her tonight when we wake her up." you ain't slick. She said, we're gonna tell her tonight, when they wake her up. And I remember your mom was like, asked me did I want to come to the hospital to be there when they told you. I flat out told her no. I was like,
Because
no.
that was a big deal. So the doctors knew they were gonna wean me off of whatever to bring me out of the medically
Yeah.
induced coma, and they let everybody know. So when I woke up, there were lots of people around me, like a
Yeah.
whole bunch of people around me. So because Mike is the last person that I would have remembered being with, they made him tell me. So I thought that kind of sucked because that's a lot for this guy who just
And
go ahead.
as they slowly were bringing you out of it, I don't even think you remember, you were asking for the girls before you even
Yes,
fully came to. She asked
yes.
for the girls several times before she came. She asked for her kids, and the doctors just kept telling us, just tell her that everything's okay. Like, don't give her any indication what happened to this child or that child. Just say that everything is okay and everybody's okay, because they really felt that if she was still in that state and she knew what happened, that she wouldn't even try to pull through.
So with
Right.
that said, I did hear, and I don't know if it's true, and you can clear this up, that when they did tell you, about the girls, they had to put you back out.
Not immediately because they
I think they more or
decided,
less got her high.
yeah, they more or less pumped me with stuff to be out of my mind because they didn't want me to be like, for you two, but for anybody else, oh, I didn't want to cry. I'm a mom. Like, I love my kids. And when I wake up and go to sleep, like, sometimes it can be sickening. Like, I'll be at work and she knows, Della knows, I'll be out and I'll be the only one on the phone with my kids. And she be like, look, you are out right now. Don't you worry about those kids. They know you're fine. So for me to wake up and instantly ask for my kids, I don't think it was because I thought something was wrong. It's because that's what I remember. We were all together the last time. So waking up to ask about them and then no one's answering me, but it didn't confuse me because then I don't know if you remember, Della, I immediately started talking about Tierra's birthday
Yep.
I heard
because
that.
her birthday is the 24th of May, which we'll get into in a second, but ironically that's the day they were buried, on her birthday.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but I started saying, hey, we got a party to plan. Like, I was just like looking at all these people though and not really mentally ever clicking that all of these people don't normally be together like this in the same room. Like,
Yeah, that's
it
why I was
didn't
like,
click to
no.
me.
I
I
told her
just
no.
knew everybody.
I was like, I don't want to be there. I was like, because I distinctly told Judy, I was like, I don't want to be there. I said, because this is gonna be a moment she's gonna remember for the rest of her life. And she's gonna remember every single face that is around her
Yeah.
dead when y'all tell her that. And I was like, and I'm sorry, I don't want to be one of those faces. I was like, that's it. I
And
just don't want to be one of those faces. I was like, I'll come up there after the fact. I was like, but
and
I do not
see,
want to be there when y'all tell her.
and that's why they put me back out. So I had a lot of conversation and them kind of changing the subject before they had to put me out. So that's why I say I was up for a little bit. And then when Mike finally looked at me and just was like, Lynette, the girls didn't make it. It didn't comprehend the first time he said it.
Mm-mm.
I was just like, come on, we gotta plan Tierra's birthday. Like, what are you talking about? Blah blah blah. And then he said it again. I think he had to say it 3 times. It was the third time when he said it. That's when like I like lost it. Like, what like what? Because mind you, I'm still not even comprehending that while these people are in here, that I'm laying in a hospital bed.
Right.
None of that even clicked in my head. I'm not even thinking in my head. I'm sitting down somewhere and I'm good. I'm about to get back up, but I never tried to move or anything because I couldn't anyway because I didn't feel anything. So, and this was all because of the medication. It wasn't because I couldn't use my legs or anything, but that really hurt. And then I don't really remember anything else at the moment after that, after letting some of my emotions out
And
because
that's
they
when you
didn't let me
started
go too
complaining
far
about your
with it.
hair.
Yeah, and then
That's when you started complaining about your hair.
I started complaining about my hair because, mind you, now I'm all over the place. Like,
Right. And
y'all
you
got
could
me in here
definitely
looking
tell. Yeah.
crazy. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and like it's still like I just remember that moment, and like Della said, that is so true. Like I can remember looking and seeing everybody like they was around my bed from where I could see you right here by my head all the way around the bed.
So let's talk about, because I know this is like a running, it's not even a joke, but it's a running truth that we always discuss. So, Judy, how was Judy? How was
Off
Judy?
the hook, off the meat rack. If anybody knows my mom, she is extra, as the kids would say. She is so extra.
I should
So
a word for Judy.
yeah, because at the time my dad was my dad married yet, or
He was with
were
her.
He
they
was with
when
her.
they were just together?
They were together. They I don't remember.
So
I can't recall if they was married, but they was definitely together.
You might as well
well,
say Mary.
my yeah,
Yeah.
because my dad
And
had
she was
another
definitely at the
person.
hospital, and yeah.
My dad had
Yeah.
another person in his life at the
Let me
time,
get my
and
boxing gloves out.
Rest in peace. Rest.
and some to yeah, rest in peace to her and my dad. But my
Yeah.
dad had another person at that time, and my mom still like being vengeful about that. They decided to take that moment, the two ladies, and fuss and fight with each other when I get my mom's emotions and why she was being extra because she just lost two of her grandchildren
Yeah.
and her daughter is may not make it in her
Fighting for
head.
her life. Right. Hmm.
Right. So, but rest my father's soul and his ex-wife, but she was extra for no reason. She was just giving my mom a hard time when she just should have sat back and consoled my dad and
Yeah,
just made
she
sure
was
he was
doing too
okay.
much.
Some people just like to be seen or feel like they're having
But
port.
I think it was to the point they couldn't even make sound medical decisions
Right, like
as
Robin
two parents.
literally, I'll let her speak on it because she was like the negotiator, like
Yeah,
for real, like
they
real
they
life.
they couldn't make sound decisions about something so simple as to do we leave Lynette in this room or move it to this floor? What's the recommendation? Even down to planning the girl's funeral, they could not make. I mean, it was to the point they were actually in the hospital, like fighting.
It's disgusting.
And it got to the point where even like the nurses and the doctors was like even talking to me and my mom, like, should we go to you two first or should we go to them before we go to them?
So let's talk about that. So how important, because this is a thing, and I'm gonna pull it back into culture because this is a thing about culture. Um, when it comes to medical emergencies, or when it comes to deaths, like of course, you can't ever schedule a death.
Right.
How important would you recommend the importance of a POA, which is power of attorney, and you can have those for medical reasons, different reasons. It doesn't have to be like your entire life and finances. How would you recommend power of attorney as well as insurance?
Yeah,
Most
I
definitely.
would like. I have hella life insurance right now on myself,
Yeah, that situation.
so that if anything ever happened to me, my kids would be totally fine, like down to my grandkids right now. And a power of attorney, of course, because you would think that, well, see, in my situation, I'm a different type of parent, so God forbid if something happened like that now to one of my kids, me and that the baby father would be okay. But my parents, for anybody that knows they have parents like my parents, make sure you have a power of attorney where you put somebody responsible. Because thank God, everybody's not going to have Adela to be there to advocate. Like, thank God she's been in my life since
And
middle school
and thank
because
God
she
it was
knows
back 20 years
everything
ago.
about me.
But
Huh?
thank God it was 20 years ago because in this day and time, Adela wouldn't be
I
able to
wouldn't
say
have been able to say ish. Yeah.
Right.
like
She wouldn't have been
nothing.
able to say anything.
Yeah.
And thank God you had doctors who knew she honestly knew enough about me and her mom to just go over and say, "Hey, can you mediate this? Can you translate?
Yes.
We trying to say she needs to go up to the next floor. Can you go over there and talk to them and get
Right.
back with us and tell us what they say?" Because thank God for her, like because when I found out later, we'll talk about that later, but when I found out later how my family acted, I was really embarrassed because you guys know me. I don't like all of that. I don't need a scene. Like I'm dying here, people. What are you
Yeah.
doing? And the reason they acted like that is because y'all know me. I am the voice. So I would have been like, if y'all don't be quiet, this is not about you. Da 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 da
Yeah.
da. So I wasn't able to say it. So they knew what they
Wow.
was doing.
So, is there anything? Because I want to kind of, we were able to identify the accident, the pre post.
Well, I will
Oh,
explain. So we keep talking about the stuff that happened on my end without putting out there that Nathaniel, and we will not say his last name for legal reasons, but you can look up the accident and see for yourself. He was also doing 81 and a 40. So to let's
was he
not leave out the fact that speed was also a factor regardless of everything else.
was he the Honda or
Yes,
Hyundai?
yes.
Okay.
So I actually had to, so that court trial probably happened maybe like a year or two after the accident. So I had to actually, they called me to speak at the trial, and it was hard. My dad went with me, rest his soul. That's why I miss him so much, because he go through all the hard stuff with me. But he went with me because I didn't even want to talk about it. Like, because I'm going to court, this guy, I'm going to court because they want to give him citations for speeding, and my children are not here anymore. Like, a citation, like, but you want to. The reason Mike got locked up was because he was on parole. So he violated his parole by having alcohol in his system, because they did take his blood test with a needle when he was in the hospital. So they did test his blood. His blood was above their legal limit. So he violated his parole, and that's what he really was getting the time for. So when I went to his court case to advocate for his time to be shortened, it was because they were trying to get him for back parole violations. Like, let's be real. He took the same loss I took.
So
So,
in between that, let's talk about the I do from the
the
accident to
marriage,
court.
the trauma marriage. Okay. So, also, people, when you go through stuff like this, because I know that some people that watch this are going to either have lost a child or know somebody close to them, so you'll be able to identify this. Like, me and Mike were together for like, oh my gosh, like a long time, like maybe 15 years or something. And you would think this should have been somebody that would have proposed to me already before this. So, but we both were going through something. And honestly, you kind of think, who else are you going to get with? Nobody else is ever going to understand this. Nobody else is going to want to watch you cry all the time for no reason in their head, but it's every reason for you. Like, you always have a reason to cry. So I'm better now, but before I just cried all the time. Like, I was super sad. Like, I'd be happy going out with y'all, and then I come home and be sad to myself, and y'all don't know that because I don't call you every time I cry. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's what we married for. I feel like he asked me to marry him. I'm not gonna say he didn't genuinely mean it, but I don't think that's what he wanted. He just wanted me to feel better. And then I think I just wanted to feel better. I just wanted to be happy about something when I was not wanting. I didn't want to be around no more. It's not like I wanted to just go and kill myself, but if you saw me after the accident, I was like this big. I haven't been a big girl, but I've never been a twig. So it was like you could see my bones everywhere. And it was
Yeah.
just because I was that depressed. Like, I was eating, but not like you're supposed to. I just eat something because somebody say, "Did you eat today?"
So back to the marriage. Spectators have said that the marriage happened or he proposed to, for your hand in marriage so that you wouldn't testify against him.
Now, I was going to testify regardless. I was going to say how I felt regardless. So I don't think that's why he did it. I know a lot of people say he did it also because of the money, because let's be real, I did lawyer up because I lost kids and everything. Like, this wasn't a regular accident. This was
Right.
things had to be paid for, estates had to be made because I have different children's fathers. So it's like somebody had to organize the chaos.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were like it was for the money. So with that being said, when the lawsuit was said and done with, Mike walked away with nothing but the death of children that he was accused of killing. So I mean, that's the image I don't want for him, because I don't blame him. I don't blame him for any of it. Like, it was truly an accident. Like, that's exactly what it was. It was a car accident. We were in a car and an accident happened. Like, he wouldn't purposely ever do anything to put us all in harm's way like that, like, at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. So you
So,
answered the
whatever, people.
yeah, you answered the questions, the three questions that I received inboxes for, and gave clarity to it. Because again, people, but you have never discussed this, even not with the Baltimore Sun, the Capital Gazette. You have not discussed this, besides, like, of course, conversation over the phone to your closest. But you've never discussed this publicly like this, and I think it's necessary that, again, with culture, we have to discuss these things because, um, again, you can't plan to lose someone. I mean, you just can't schedule and say, oh, let me fit. Because if that's the case, you would never have scheduled it.
Right,
Um,
right.
yeah. And
And
it was such a big story in our town and even Baltimore, outside of the outskirts, because, two children died, two sisters, and then it was the speculation of the alcohol, and that type of thing. And I think you guys got more, um accused, more so than the other person in the Hyundai.
right, right. And that's what made me, like, when we talked about this and I realized I never talked about it. So I don't want to leave people out here 20 years later just accusing Mike all the way. That's why I
Yeah.
want you to know that at the same time, even if this guy was in the blind spot when we made the left, I
Yeah.
feel like Mike made the turn because he felt like he could, but that guy came out of the blind spot at 81 miles an hour in a 40. So even when
Ooh.
you turn in front of something like that, you can't judge how fast he's going because you didn't see a car at the time.
So has he, Hyundai, and we just call him Hyundai, has he, 20 years today, has he ever, him, his family, anyone have ever reached out, since sympathy, flowers, anything?
No, and I think that's what hurts the most, because they never even acknowledged that I lost children. Like, regardless of how they felt about any of it, you
Wow.
were involved in an accident where two children lost their life and their mom possibly could have lost hers. Like, I think that God, like, Lord forbid, I would never want to do that to somebody, but I think I would have a heart enough to be reaching out to that person, like, are you good? Like,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Like,
Yes.
I,
Something,
right. I
Yeah.
never intended,
a
or,
postcard or something. Shit.
Yeah.
right.
Something.
Like, even if you got to go to another country and send it because you want me to think you live out the country, I could care less.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. So he's never ever reached out.
Never. And the crazy thing is, the one, and I don't know if this was because this was 20 years ago, or if they still do it, because I don't be in the court system like that. But the whole time we were going back and forth to court, all of our addresses were always exposed to each other on the court documents. So I've always wanted to go knock on their door and introduce myself, because I'm that kind of person, and just say, hi, I'm Lynette, but I think you know who that is. And I just wanted to introduce myself and just
Oh.
see what they had to say, because I've always felt some type of
And,
way.
and I really do probably think that that person has that on their conscience, but I also
Hmm.
think that by the situation with Mike being on parole and the alcohol, they looked at it as a cop out to say that's not my fault. When deep
Right.
down
Right.
inside, he knows that had you had not been doing that 80 and the 40, it was a possibility Mike could have made that. If you were doing 40,
Right.
you
You would
wouldn't
have
have
been able to
collided.
stop easily
You would
too.
have been able to stop easier. It wouldn't have, the impact wouldn't have been as bad. But that he knew mentally what he did as far as speeding, but that whole situation with Mike being arrested and saying the alcohol was involved, that was his cop out in his mind. And of course, depending upon that character, he probably ain't gonna want to face that. Why open up something that you don't want to admit that you carried fault to?
Right.
That's insane. So you mentioned God. So I've always referred to your story, you know, because I have a higher power, and His name's God. And with that said, I always refer to your story as similar to the story of Job. So we talked about the destruction, the devil's work, and the destruction, and the suffering, and the misery, and the tragedy, and all that all of that bad stuff. Let's talk about restoration. And that's one of the things that God had blessed Job with. And with that, he restored everything that was lost. And granted, you cannot say, okay, well, my daughters, Sanaya and Tiara, could be replaced.
Right.
But God blessed you again and again.
Yeah.
And tell us about that.
So I have two daughters after them, which took a while to get used to because it's just not like I had two daughters. But let me tell you, my pain was deep and it was real. And I'm such a mom's mom that I didn't even think I was going to be able to get through it. So before we say that, let's also stress get grief counseling because you need to know that you're not the only person that goes through this stuff. Like I in my head thought that I was the only person that was going through that. Like at the time I was in the friends and family that I have, but not in the real world. So my girls now they'll be 16 and 17. Um I always tell them that they were my blessing from God because he saw how hurt I was. He knew he needed Tiara and Sanaya more than I did, but he didn't want to hurt me as much as I was being hurt. And
Yes.
literally after when I had the baby girl who will be 16, I got my tubes tied because I was like, mm-mm. Like I didn't want any more, but I didn't want any more because I needed Tiara and Sanaya. You're not supposed to question anything, so I didn't want to keep questioning it because that was going to drive me completely insane. But I
Yeah.
didn't go out and have Jamie Lynn and Jaymani on purpose. So, and who knew I would have two girls because I could have had two boys.
Yeah.
And they have helped me so much. Like they are, if you know them, like you two know them, like they worry about me the most. They make me the most stuff from the heart. Like I truly know they were given to me to make me to heal my heart a little bit. Like they went
Absolutely.
with me. They went with me to the grave yesterday. We did go to the grave yesterday because I was busy today. And they just let me sit there. They let me cry. They don't say anything. They start talking to the girls. So like they just give me a moment. So
Yeah. I
they my
remember
little support system.
absolutely. I remember when you were pregnant with the baby girl. I remember when well, all the kids, but especially these kids.
Hold up,
Um,
dog. Don't go there.
you don't like to tell or disclose of that important information. But I
Oh, when
remember
she pregnant? Oh, how she had pregnancies? Oh, all right.
it's
That's
like
another episode.
that's
How
another
she had
that's a
pregnancies? Oh,
that's a
all right, all right.
I don't know what that is. But I remember when I asked you, I think you were a few months as in like 4 or 5, significant. And I said, what are you having? And you was like, I don't want to know. You said, I don't want to know because you would have lost it then if you knew it was a girl.
Mm-hmm. Because I had already had J Lo.
Right. Right. And I remember you were just like, I don't want to know. I don't
And
want to know.
another thing that you two probably know, but everybody else doesn't know, is because I lost my daughters at 15 months and 5 years old. When those two turned 15 months, I freaked out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I watched them extra hard at 15 months, and then when they both turned 5, I freaked out and watched them extra hard, like as if like I don't think God would do this to me again, but I need to watch these two numbers right here. And I know I didn't need to probably really watch those two numbers now, but
Yeah.
back then, no, I was like, I was losing my mind.
Yeah. I think we kind of really got through this really, really good and strong because
We
of the
did, guys. I'm so
restoration.
proud of you
I'm
too.
proud of you. Like, well, look,
Oh my
you're strong.
gosh.
You're
I'm
like,
so proud of you too. Della, I'm proud of you because I thought you was gonna let loose a little bit.
I can't afford to. Can't afford to be emotional.
Yeah, and it's like, let me tell you, you guys, I think I really wanted you two to do it also because you have heard all of the tears. You be on the phone talking to me when I just start crying. I
yeah,
call you when I'm crying. So
yeah,
it's like I think this I was able to also be really strong, especially on the 20-year anniversary to have the interview with you two because you guys make me strong. Like you're a part of the reason why I am strong.
God.
So it's a village. It's a
She ready to
village,
cry. She
baby.
ready to cry.
I,
She ready to cry.
She about to break it.
She about to break. She about to
God,
blow.
No, for real. You really are. Like it takes a village, and like we tease. Like J Lo is Jamie Lynn Della, and Connie and Marilyn told me one day. She said, "Well, I'm off tomorrow, so if you plan on having her, then you need to do it tomorrow on my day off."
Girl, let me
right.
tell you, you never know when Lynette gonna pop one out.
No, but I tell
Lynette
you
pops
this,
them out during the baby shower,
she do.
okay?
But I tell you
Lynette,
this,
the baby
all
shower
star
was in
daddies,
5 minutes. Get up off the floor. Why is you crawling? We got to go because my water broke.
Yes,
girl had that
and
baby on my day off too. She
I
was like,
did. Like I literally called you and said, my water's never broke before," and I said, "I think my water just broke."
Yeah,
And she was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "I mean, like I'm leaking and I
my
can't stop
girl.
it."
Let me tell you, who was it? Was it? No, it wasn't Sierra. It might have been D. It was one of them pregnancies where I hadn't really seen her, but I had talked to her, and but I knew something wasn't right. So I said, "Let me pop up on this heifer." Popped up on that heifer and stomach sitting. I said, "I knew it. I fucking knew it."
I do. I disappear and I come back later with a kid.
Yes.
why do you do that?
Um.
Trauma from the hiding
I,
the first one. That's what that is.
well, the first one I hid because I was about to
High
graduate from
school.
high school and I didn't want my parents to be disappointed in me, and they weren't. But my head told me that they would be, so that's what I wanted to do. But then the rest of them, I felt like because I chose to have kids, I knew I was gonna have a lot of kids because I love kids. Like y'all know that to this day, I love kids. Like on my day off, I just went to a career day because I love kids. But I feel like people are very opinionated, and I didn't want to hear people saying, "Oh my gosh, not another one. Oh my gosh, I just rather show you better than I could tell you," and that's all I've ever done is raise my kids to be amazing little people. And you can be like, when I could be like, I got 6 kids, you be like, you had 6 kids, yeah, because you didn't know, because you didn't read about them in the newspaper, you didn't hear about them, like.
Hold on. For the record, let's hold on. Let me talk to this culture real fast before they start judging about 6 kids. Half of the culture have about 12 and don't have them. You know
Honey.
what I'm talking about. You know
Honey.
Yeah,
the lines. So don't judge her.
yeah,
CPS be right at their door.
So
yeah. Like
next.
I raised all of my kids. I didn't ship any of them away. I kept them, and I'm doing. And God has blessed me this day forth, where I have an amazing career, and I'm able to spoil them. And I officially have my license. That's a whole nother show.
That's a whole nother show.
I've been
That is a
driving
whole
forever,
nother
but I
show.
am official.
Yeah, that's she right. That's a whole. We ain't got time for that today.
That's a
Okay.
whole. Look, I got lots of shows. Just keep them
Yeah,
coming.
that's a whole nother.
Yeah, so
But
when is the book coming out?
uh and so many people have asked me, and I honestly have started one, and I just never. I think now that it's been 20 years, and I was able to do this interview a little bit better than I thought because I got a whole bunch of tissue right here because I
Me
thought I was
too.
gonna lose my mind. But
Uh-huh.
and have had makeup on, but not a lot because I was like, it's gonna be
You
running
have to
off.
redo it. Have to redo
Uh-huh.
it.
But maybe soon. Maybe I'll be able to do it soon because I actually was able to talk about it a little better than I thought.
Yeah.
But I really want to write a book to better explain everything in a lot of details because of course it's very detail oriented. Like we could have been on here all night long talking about this one topic because it's so much.
It is. It is.
It's so
It's
much.
a lot.
With
Like
the minor details, like
yeah, like we just briefed it up for you to sum it up to let you know what happened. But yeah, so like now um let's talk about the effects. So now I'm older. It's something that I've always had a problem with since my lungs collapsed, but it's harder for me to breathe. So like going up and down the steps feels like somebody be punching me in my chest like a million times. Like get down. Why you walking? Stop. Sit down. Like, but that's something that's always gonna be wrong. My breath is just a little bit more shallow than everybody else's. Just my lungs did heal, but of course not completely. Like
Yeah.
so my ribs they healed. That took so long. Like I'm a goofy person, so that probably took long because I couldn't stop laughing. Everything was funny when your ribs are broken.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, and I forgot to say my liver split in half.
Oh yeah, because you
So
had to have the stings in them. Yeah.
yeah, I forgot about that. I had to get a tube in my liver that had a ball attached to it to drain the bile out of it because my liver wasn't functioning correctly for a little bit. So
Wow.
yeah,
So
but I am doing good, guys. I'm doing amazing. God is amazing.
yes, he is.
Um, you really gotta lean on him because boy, he puts me through some trials and tribulations, man. But I be killing it. I be coming out on top.
So I just want to give a shout out to Florida Girl Lifestyle is on her. What's up, Florida
Hey.
Girl? Thank you, Rockwell Mom, for tuning in. What's up, T? And who else we got? We got Big Terrell. So what's up? Thank you for tuning in tonight. This is a very, very exclusive conversation about tragedy, trauma 20 years ago with our very own Greeneyez. And this is her sharing her summed up story of her losing her children on this same day 20 years ago. And amazingly, that I've always found she's like the strongest woman I know. Because I be starting and crying like it's nobody's business. Um, because I'm just so emotional, and if I love you, I'm if you can't produce some tears, I got you. 5 seconds, I got you.
Yeah,
So
I shipped them to you today.
you and them got ship them. It's just like I'll be like, you need them, okay? Because it's when you love someone so much, and then just thinking about the tragedy and the struggles they go through, it's just so emotional. And but tonight, I don't know how you did this because I mean I did shed some tears, but it wasn't so bad because I have a box of tissue and I'm like,
Me too. I had it right here.
I was
Like,
prepared to
and I
also
kept
cut my
telling
camera. I
you
was
may
prepared
see
to
me
cut the
keep
camera.
blowing. You may see me keep blowing kisses. Baby girl keeps walking in just to check on me. Like they knew I was doing this podcast tonight, so
Hey, Nene.
they wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that I was good. Like I'm telling you, baby girl is the one. She be watching out for me for real. But
She watched everybody. She
I
was one,
also
the
want to
two, and the
say
three.
that when people watch this later, if you know me or you knew me then and you have questions, you can comment underneath of it and I will answer your questions. I will make sure that I pay attention to this thread because I know that you know how people do. They watch stuff later on and then they be like, oh, well, she
Oh,
was talking about this, but
oh.
did that? Go, you
Um,
can go ahead and ask because
so
I
Florida girl said she's glad that she still has you today. That you made it
oh,
through, and she loves you. So
thank you. I love you too.
yeah, yeah,
I'm glad to be here today too. Like I'm glad the Lord saw fit that my time
yes.
wasn't over because I love everything about the life that I have right now.
Because boy,
That's
she had me in there ready to fight everybody.
Layla Ali. Layla Killer
You
Ali
made
was
it.
in the
You made
building.
it through. You made it through. So, with that said, we are at 55-minute mark. We're coming up to 55-minute mark, and we know some of y'all has ADHD, so you can't stay. You know, we think about you, culture. We think
Right.
about you. So,
We think about you.
and then plus Greeneyez got something to do. So, and so do I.
That me and Della, we about to hit the streets.
Don't drink a lot.
We will. I mean,
She talking to you. She ain't talking to me. She don't
I'm
talk to
on
me like that. Watch your mouth. She don't talk to me like that.
I'm on vacation and my birthday is on Monday, so
they ain't ladylike.
Pre birthday turn up. Pre
we
birthday
about
turn
to
up.
But anywho, again, culture. Thank you so much for tuning in. And again, we just want to thank Greeneyez and Della for tuning in. Della, go ahead and shot your
yes.